Hello everyone, my name is Brandon Writt and I'm representing the team group with the members Aiden Stern and Josh Hendi in a presentation on the current events in the South Asia region. So, to give you an overview of South Asia, it is the most southern region in Asia, which is geographically defined largely by the Indian Ocean on the south, the Himalayas, Karakoram, as well as the Pamir Mountains in the north. The population of South Asia is approximately 1.9 billion, making up approximately 1/4 of the world's population. This region is the most densely populated region in the world. The population growth rate has been a steady 1.2% per year for the past decade and is expected to level off slowly and start declining by 2075. South Asia is home to some of the world's most vulnerable countries when it comes to climate change. The changing weather patterns are expected to directly affect over 800 million people by the year 2050. Near Mount Kangaraboki in Tibet, there are 4 major rivers, which stretch east and west across the Himalayan and down to the sea. These rivers define nations and civilizations in the region, such as Tibet, Pakistan, and India, to name a few. The river depends on 2 things to replenish: monsoons and glacial ice melt. Rivers emerging from eastern Himalayan are mostly fed by summer monsoons. Their flow may be unaffected or increased by a warming climate. However, most of the water in the Indus River, which flows from west the Himalayas, comes from the snow and glacier ice melt of the Himalayas and the Karakoram Mountains. Humans already use 95% of the Indus, and the population of the basin is growing really fast. It is unlikely that the Indus and the South Asian population as a whole can sustain this supply of water with the pressure of scarcity resulting from global warming occurring. India, Pakistan, and China are some of the most populated countries in the world and have ample reasons to protect their resources. All 3 countries have nuclear warfare capabilities, and climate change may occur a trigger which could create conflict in the region, causing possibly nuclear warfare. Some politicians in the region say that policies and recommendations alone are not enough. Businesses need incentives to embrace renewable energy and environmentally friendly practices. The SARCAR, South Asian Regional Climate Adaptation and Resilience Program, aims to bridge the gap between the policy and the activism of the people who want to institute these changes. As part of the World Bank SARCAR program, the region has instituted climate change adaptation efforts to uphold standards for resilience infrastructure such as weather detection technology, along with services to help South Asian communities address their specific vulnerabilities. The article that we found that was current was published on June 16, 2020. The name of the article was "A Water Crisis Looms for 270 Million People in South Asia's Glacier Shrink," and it's by Alice Albinia. On the bottom left here, you can see there's a picture of what glacier melt looks like, and as you can tell by this picture, this thin sheet of ice is left after a lot of sun has caused it and heat has caused it to melt. So, to give you a basic summary of the article, in South Asia, there are many rivers that cut through the land and drive life there. These rivers are fueled by monsoon rains and glacial ice melts, which are heavily impacted by global warming and humans. One of these major rivers, the Indus, is 2,000 miles long, and it stretches from Tibet to the Arabian Sea and is primarily fed by glacier ice melts. A quote that really stuck out to us was, "The Indianness is treated as a resource but no longer as an object of reverence." This stuck out to us because the Indianness has been worshipped as a god and goddess for centuries, and now is reduced to little more than something that is used for money and is overused for resources. With global warming, this is a huge problem because it causes more of the glacier to melt than usual, which causes flooding and an increase in extreme rain. In August 2010, the Indianness was already full, but was hit by a freak monsoon, and in some places, 12 months worth of rain came in a couple of hours, and it caused 1,600 deaths and $10 million in damages. Floods in this area were unheard of, but soon become way more common due to the climate change. Usman Quasi, an expert on disaster relief, said, "Flooding on that scale was unheard of, but it will become more common due to this melting and increase in monsoons." Climate change-related floods are one of the biggest hazards in this country. Glacial lake outburst floods, or GLOFs, are often a huge problem. GLOFs are where meltwater pools behind an obstruction, then will flood past it all due to there being more water coming in, which hasn't before because of the increase of water flow from the glaciers melting at an increased rate. The Indianness is also a powder keg because of the regional conflict in the area. Major powerhouses such as China, India, and Pakistan all share these Indianness rivers, and if one country hoards it, it could turn into a huge global issue overnight. The Indianness Waters Treaty is in place between Pakistan and India, and both countries have built dams and canals, so the problem is somewhat alleviated, but still can cause a bit of friction. Villages along the Indianness have been abandoned due to their irrigation systems being drained, so with the water scarcity that follows, they have to abandon their homes. These floods have caused a lot of damage and problems of all the inhabitants along the river. Water scarcity is especially hard for some farmers, and it drives thousands of farmers to suicide each year because of the debts for procuring water. The water scarcity is on three fronts: by scarcity of canal water, poisoned groundwater, and heavy monsoons. Due to the way they procure water, they have used 10 times more than they need to, and water now is contaminated due to these monsoons and increase in glacial melt. Pakistan and India don't agree on a lot of things, but they do agree on the Indian River needs to be restored to its former glory. And so with that, here's a graphic showing the extreme water stress in India itself, and looking at the one to the right, we can look at our water index scores and looking at the performance on how groundwater is managed, irrigated, used on for drinking and farm use. And so you can see there's a lot of red, meaning low performance. I'd say the middle of India is doing pretty well, but in all things said and done, it's not doing the best. And so another problem that comes with groundwater and the high increase in moving water is that it takes trash with it. And I've done a lot of research. I don't know about the other members in my group, but I've seen a lot of things going on in India that come to the trash being burned. A lot of electronic waste I know goes there and is burned for their precious metals in fields with no protection whatsoever. And the water also will take their plastic recyclables, all of our trash basically, and lift it up and then take it into the Indian Ocean, which is not a good practice. So here's just an image, a representation of what it would look like in some cases in India. And I think that should be changed or reformed. Here is another image describing the water scarcity. You can just see this visual representation of how many people fight to get out of one hole of water to get water for their families, and it's just unfortunate. So with that, I leave you with two questions. to review and create a discussion of. What can experts do from around the world to help with the downstream pollution of the Indigenous and surrounding rivers? And the second one is, how can people who farm and use these lands do their part to maintain its utility as well as its health? Because with the rise in population, there is also a rise in need and demand for food and resources. So we need to figure out how to do this soon, or else the Indian population and surrounding will have a very hard time making it through. Thank you.